Hi, PR community. So excited to be with you guys here today live. I thought I'd just jump in and answer a few questions that you guys have been throwing at me, but also questions that we are discussing here in the team or have discussed in the past because of, we've been there. We've gone exactly the same way as you guys. We're trying to go online, and the big question is, how do we engage our audience? Now, I thought I'll share a couple of tips today, and feel free if you're down there to let us know that you're here live. Just go hashtag live if you're live, or hashtag replay if you're replay, so that we know that we're answering all the questions that we need to answer. And really, what I want to share about is like, how do you engage your audience, and like, how do you make it attractive for them? But rather than talking just about, you need to have your niche sorted, you know exactly who your customer avatar is and what problem is. I want to go a step further. Like, I want to go past the point of going and saying, okay, I understand who my customer is. I've spoken to them. So just briefly recap for those who have never heard me talk about this before. Customer avatar is like your ideal client, that one person/persona that you want to have over and over and over again. It doesn't mean that customer is the only customer you will ever work with, but it is the customer that you want to communicate with when it comes to online, right? So you need to really narrow it down to that one customer, which we call either the customer avatar or the specific niche of the client you want to work with. And you need to identify what is their problem. So we've already talked about that before. You will see this in other videos, but really, like, don't if you are your own personal customer avatar and you've solved your problem and now you're repeating it, don't live in your head and go, I know all about the customer. Find people who have similar problems and ask them about their problem and what their problem is, what solutions they're looking for, and all that kind of thing. Not because you're not your ideal customer, it's because we live so much in our own head that we tell ourselves our own story. And quite often, because we are working with like our structure or our framework, we use words like customer avatar, expecting people to understand what it is rather than actually asking them. And that might not be the language that your audience is using. So the more you talk to your audience, the more you actually understand not only the problem, but the language they use. So when you're communicating with your clients, you don't communicate with the technical jargon, but you are talking about like talking and speaking in their language and in their terms. So when you are actually communicating with your clients to find out about the problem, make sure you listen rather than just hear what you want to hear. Really listen to what they have to say and use your language. That will be like super helpful for you when you are posting. But that's actually not the subject I wanted to talk about. So once we gone past that, it's like, okay, we know the content we want to map out. We have an idea of what we're going to say, and then somehow the content doesn't land, right? So here's a couple of tips I want to share with you. First of all, consider who the people are who you are talking to. So your audience, not like imagine your customer avatar, but think about like they are real human beings, right? They really want to connect with you. So the key is they want to understand who you are. And that's for a product-based business or a service-based business. They don't actually care about the product. They care about the person who stands behind it. So when you are online sharing with the people in your community, don't just give like all your value out for free, because what will happen then is they go, oh, great, I've got all the tools, off I go and do it myself, right? You don't want to do that. You want to actually connect with them by giving away some value, of course, so that they understand, and you can position yourself as authority, and you can position yourself as the expert and leader in your field. But you also want to show that you're a real human being. And that means showing everything, not only the good times, the nice and polished, fancy, look at my life, I'm so amazing images that have been taken by a photographer, but also the hard work and the sweat and the vulnerability that makes you really you. So you need to connect with your audience. At least a third of your posts needs to be to your audience about something that you believe in. So that could be something about your values, something about your lifestyle, something about your philosophy in life, right? Something about like milestones that you've achieved, or things that might be relevant to your customers that you haven't achieved, or which transformations you've been going through that really uniquely make you the expert in that space, right? So I will share you a couple of examples for this one. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, and I'm not only going to show myself, but I'm gonna show a few different examples. But when you actually jump into my profile, you will see that I've shared in my profile my big wins and my big disasters, right? Like I've really shared, I haven't gone like massively into detail telling the whole story, but I have given an idea of, oh my God, what have my last 18 months been, and how have I turned this around? Now, how is that relevant? Well, first of all, my audience connects, and you'll see that like in that post, I have 39 comments, while when I share something like about a winner, there's only 14, or like this one here, there's only 4 comments, right, where I'm sharing about an event that is being run. So absolutely, I think that posts that connect truly to you do much better, like on from a scale, than any other one, right? Because people like to know who the people are behind every story. So that is one key thing. The other thing as well is provide value. So this is a community I absolutely love. If you guys are like really into Facebook and this is your platform, let me know. Dan is amazing, and he's going to be one of our interview guests that we are going to talk to soon. But basically, what he focuses on is like he talks about, like when you look at his images, he's very nicely aligned, but he also talks like gives away a lot of things, right? Like he does a lot of value hooks around, like once every couple of weeks or once every month. They'd go and say, okay, do you want this? Yes, I do. And then when you do something like this, and like this one here says, would you want this? 200 people asked me for sitter training last week. I decided to level up and make it even better. It goes through what it is, and then it says comment playbook below, and we'll send it over to you. Now, why would he do that? Because the people who are commenting, and he said 438 comments on this, right, saying playbook or respondent, those people are actually already leads, knowing that this is something that he wants, like his part of his training is. And then what it means is that not only is he's giving this free away, but he's now starting a real conversation with a human being who is a potential client of his, right? So there is a lot of value hooks in here that he talks about, but you also like a lot of videos, right? So this is like his value adds, positioning himself as the expert, and then also things like you'll see in the media, he talks about his clients. So what does this actually mean? It basically just means that he is building credibility through testimonials, right? So seeing, not, we can always brag about ourselves and say how amazing we are, but if other people tell you that we are amazing, or if you have real hard facts, like we have a client here in the community who, like, their success rate is 90%. If you know your success rate is 90%, then make sure you share that with everyone, because that's what gives you credibility. But also, so that's for credibility. The hooks and the videos are all about positioning yourself as authority and leader and expert in your team, right? Because people need to build trust with you. So that is another way. But also then those value hooks are for you to engage with people, so you can start conversations because those people are obviously interested in what you want to do. So this is a little bit, I got sidetracked, sorry guys, but this is a little bit of a mix. So when you're building your cadence or your action plan in regards to what copy you're going to share, make sure that you like map out in your groups and in your own personal profile, that you share at least 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, where you can then nicely map out things like what are the pillars. So you can talk about like your personal story, your beliefs, and your lifestyle. You can set your authority and value posts. You can do trainings and tips, right? And every time make sure you have some sort of call to action, and that call to action does not have to be buy my stuff now. It could be something like share with me what are your biggest challenges, or let's talk about like what real questions do you have, or like anything that gets people engaged. So that's really good, a good post here. The other one as well is like awards, right? So if you go into the PR community, you will see, well, first of all, our last post where Christy won the 100, sorry, last interview where Christy won the 100 Ethereums. that Mark was giving away, right? We had 75 comments in here having a conversation, and that is because we showed up as real people and we gave you a real clear action goal. Watch the video and you're about to win, $100 Australian dollars of Ethereum. The other action post I've recently, and you might want to share some love to this one because I really think this is a great opportunity for you guys to give back, is we've recently celebrated 400 customers, right? So members, sorry, not customers, members in this community, which means I'm giving away $400, right? So you have until tomorrow to actually drop in who would you give it to if you would be the winner of the $400. So just read that post, give us some action. So your call to action does not necessarily have to be buy my stuff now, and it shouldn't be, to be honest, because the more you go buy me, the more desperate you seem, and then people are not interested. The whole point of any group or any your personal profile or your page is to make sure that you build authority, you build credibility, and that you get people engaged and get to know you, so you can build the trust to take them onto the next step of the customer pathway. So this is a little bit about how to build your content. But the one thing that no one actually really talks about is actually this. So I know that you guys know I'm a trained and qualified performance consultant with Wealth Dynamics. But besides that, what I love about this tool is really clearly understanding your audience. And I encourage you to either jump in and do the free test, which I'll drop in the comments if you guys like yourself, so that you know at least which energy you are in. But also think about like, who are your ideal customers, right? So if your ideal customers are, for example, Dynamo Energy, you will interact with them online differently than you would if it's a Tempo Energy or a Steel Energy. So let me just briefly run you through this, and please comment below if you guys have any questions, if this is useful, so that I, don't just like chat to myself. But what I wanted to share here is, like, we normally look at and we do the profiling and we're like, great, we know a little bit more about ourselves. But if you know more about yourself, you also get to know more about your clients. So for example, if you know your ideal customer is someone who is a creator, right? So Dynamo Energy is like high visionary, high speed. They're about innovation and creation and making sure that, like, you can productize, you constantly coming up with lots of new ideas. Awesome to start, think, and come up with strategy, but they're very out of flow or discouraged when they actually have to follow through and action things, right? So for me, for example, my ideal customer is actually a Dynamo Energy, because I'm the opposite energy and I like to get shit done. I like to sit there and go and say, great, you've got all these ideas, let's put them into a plan and let's get them actually actioned, and then keep my customers accountable that they actually go and follow through and stuff gets done. So quite often, and people in the community have said this as well, it's a little bit like I'm a dog with a bone. So I just jump in and I'm just like not letting go, and I really want to make sure that I am getting into that I'm getting the customer the best results by making sure that we're achieving what we need to achieve. Now, if I know that Dynamo Energy is one of my ideal customer avatars energy, then what I do is do a lot more videos, because the Dynamo Energy are much more visual. So they want to hear, they want to see imagery, right? So you see me quite often with a slide deck, you see me quite often on a video, sharing with you some thoughts. And that is really because I know that the Dynamo Energy is very visual. They want to see something, they look at it and they go, okay, I get it, right? Well, if your energy would be more Tempo Energy, you would be like giving way more value hooks and way more value by going and saying, here's my top checklist of X, or here is spreadsheet of tasks that you can tick off. So you can see quite often, like in here, I just shared with you, this is designed by a trader, you can tell, right? Because I can go and say, okay, now I can jump in here, I can make the actions happen, I can tell everyone which post I want when, and I can share a little bit more about the content action plan with you guys shortly. But that is something that you would share with an energy that is much more tempo focused than a dynamo focused. Now, if you have Blaze, for example, as your ideal customer, and Blaze energy, then all that means is that you would be much more like interviews, getting people like engaged, having conversations, right? Live Q&As. You would go and connect more, like create networking events, create like, you know, opportunities for people to get connected within an environment, because that's what Blaze energy is all about. But then if you would be having customers who are all Steel energy, you would be much more into like spreadsheets, details, giving a lot of like information and detailed information, because the Steel energy wants to know how it's done, right? And like really sit there and figure it out for themselves. So if you know this, and please comment below either hashtag live or hashtag replay if this is actually beneficial. But if you know this, then all that really means is you can then adapt the way you provide content to the energy you have. Now, like I shared with you guys before, my ideal customer is Blaze or Dynamo energy. So you see me a lot live, you see me a lot with visuals, live Q&As, because I know that my ideal customer likes to engage, and I like to engage, right? So I just jump in and go and say, okay, let's have a conversation about it, rather than trying to figure it out ourselves. If you would be much more Steel energy, it would be a lot more about how-to videos and like giving you the exact detail of what needs to happen. So what I would love to know is, do you guys have an idea, knowing what those four energies are now, do you have an idea of where your ideal customer sits in the spectrum? Because if you do, and do you know where you sit in the spectrum? Because if you know that, you know what unique proposition is, right? So if I know that my ideal customer is a creator, and I'm a trader, so I'm at the bottom in the tempo energy, I like to get stuff done. That is actually my unique proposition to any of my customers. So a creator or a dynamo energy doesn't need a mentor to come up with more ideas. They need the grounded energy to go and say, okay, you've got all these great ideas. How are we actually going to make them happen? So let's just get some action steps done, and take some steps to make sure that you get to the end and that you've actually done something out of this. Because otherwise, the dynamo energy just jumps in, has all these ideas, gets started, but never finished. And then they never, and I'm generalizing here, of course, but when they never get to be successful, because they are missing the action taker in that environment. So I hope that made a little bit more sense for you. Oh yeah, and that's right. Sorry, I said about the content plan. So I'll show you a little bit. When I create content, so now we know, here are the tips. So you know your customer, you know the customer's problem, you know the language you need to use because you've spoken to your customer, so that that you can use their language to get used, right? We know we want to share content at least 3 times a week, and the whole point of being successful online, or what we call the overnight success that only took 18 months, is consistency. There is no such a thing as you're a one-hit wonder overnight. It actually takes consistent time of working with each other to make sure that and showing up live all the time consistently, for people to build the trust and realize that you're not just something that popped up overnight, but that you actually know your stuff, right? So you're building consistency, and the way I do it is by using this document with my team, right? So I jump into this document, and then I go and say, okay, I am going to post 3 times a week, and I'm going to choose a pillar. So out of the pillars that I shared with you, I choose one is a third is a personal story or belief, so you get to know me. A third of it is value, so that you can actually take something away and make it happen. And a third of it is actually something around like processes and methods of how we are working, right? So like a little bit like this. So I then will go and say, okay, I know who my customers are, and then I will jump in here and say, okay, on a Monday, I'm going to use Facebook because Facebook is my main one, but you can use multiple here. And then I will write a short post, which is an accountability post, right? So I would go accountability. And then I would write the post, the caption in the post. So, you know, whatever your thing is, give the hashtags if you use hashtags. And then I would give it to one of my team members. So I would go, Amy, please action. Yeah. And then I run this every week for every day. So then all Amy has to do, and if I have a image or something with it, I would put the image in here so that she can click in. And so then all she has to do is like literally access the recording, copy paste that copy, right, and then go and post it for me so that I don't have to post it. And if you pre-map that, and you can do this for yourself, right? So for a very long time, I posted every message myself. Now I write every message and I create every message, but I don't actually do the scheduling. So if you guys are wondering, like Amy doesn't do the scheduling by hand either. We use something, a tool called later.com, where we connect to Facebook and Instagram and post from there. So this is a little bit, if you guys want the template, feel free to drop me a link, like a message below in the comments to say you would like that, and then I can share that for you as well. That's absolutely fine. But that's basically how I make sure that our content is posted constantly. So we have now the ideal customer, we know the problem, we know the language, we are using content consistently, we are picking 3 posts a week, right? And then and if you're wondering where to post those free posts, if you're going right from the beginning, make sure you pick it where you've got the most engagement. So if you only have a group of 10 or 20 people, but your profile is really like well set up, start with your profile and build into the group rather than vice versa, just because put your efforts where they count the most is always what I say. And then you build out your content 3 times a week by basing it a third on yourself, a third on your product or the services that you're offering, and a third in around value to make sure that you position yourself into credibility, right? So you have all these posts, you keep going, make sure you put in a call to action because it's really important, and that you think about the profile that you're trying to engage, and then use a method that is engaging to the energy that your ideal customer is all about. Well, I hope this, I feel like I've been waffling on, but I hope it was useful. Please give me some feedback. If there's any specific questions you have on how to show up live, you know, or how to engage more audience in this field and online, please feel free to reach out to me because I'd love to have a conversation with you. And I promise you, there's no credit cards, there's no sales pitch. There's literally like, okay, you have a question, let's answer this question and get you going and get you moving. This is what the community is about. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for hanging out here with me. For anyone who's watching the replay, thank you. Please let me know that you're watching the replay, and let me know what was your biggest takeaway from today. Like which one of those tips that I've shared with you can you action yourself, so right now, to make a difference in your engagement. So looking forward to hearing from you guys, and talk to you soon. Bye.